Welcome back to another episode of the RAG Report podcast, my daily bulletin show where I bring to you recruitment owners, suppliers, advisors, investors who are prepared to give up their time to talk about what they see is happening in the market today and how we might be able to navigate through this pandemic a little bit better. Today, I'm joined by Steve Barnhurst. Steve is the commercial director at Volcanic. Volcanic are the leading website platform for recruitment businesses globally. And a little bit like myself, Steve's got a big network. He's ex-Broadbean as well. And he's going to have had a lot of a kind of bird's eye view on the industry over the last month or so. And we'll be able to offer some insights into what he's seen and what he thinks is happening moving forward. Before I get into the show, a message from our sponsor, Rise Recruitment Ventures. The guys at Rise are a brand new recruitment investment business who are looking to partner with startups and early stage recruitment brands who want to capitalize on the bounce back and become a leading name in their sector. So the guys themselves, John and Alex, they scaled a business from startup to exit of 20 million valuation in 10 years. And they want to do that again with people that are up for it. So they're looking for the top 10% of recruitment owners, the guys that have got a big aspiration, but need the support, the foundations, potentially the capital to make it happen. If you want to find out if you're the right person to work with these guys, get in touch at www.riserv.co.uk. Now, back to the show. Steve, welcome to the RAG Report.
Thanks, Sean. Nice to be here.
Yeah, always good to have you on, mate. I think the connection sounded a bit wobbly there, so if you struggle with me, let me know. But in true RAG Report daily fashion, we'll just kick on. Steve, I've spoken to you already a couple of times over this period, but for the sake of my listeners, the first question I'm going to ask you, mate, is what the hell is your life like right now?
Interesting is probably the best way to put it. It's been busier than I expected it to be. It's been ever changing, literally day by day by day, in a period where everything suggests it's going to be quieter. I think I've been on more calls, more meetings, more initiatives, more campaigns with my teams and wider teams across the business, just looking at what we can do and how we can adapt to ultimately what we're being faced with right now. So I guess from my point of view, I found it quite a fascinating period of time, if I'm being brutally honest. Just seeing and watching how we've adapted, but also how the market's trying to adapt at the same time. So yeah, very busy is the overarching response, Sean.
How many customers around the world have Volcanic got now?
So we power over around about 2,000 sites, pure recruitment industry. And we go from the gentleman that you kindly introduced us to earlier on in the week, so your one-man entrepreneurial startups, right the way through to Reed's manpowers at the top end, and ultimately everything in between.
Right, so you've got a really good viewpoint on what's going on. So let's go back, Steve. Tell us, what was it like in the world of Volcanic when the news hit?
Yeah, it was, I suppose, like everyone, it was, it hit so quick and so hard that, nobody really saw it coming. We thought we'd be okay. We're a big business. We were established. As you said, we were leaders in terms of what we were doing. We had a strong client base. And you never think these things are going to touch you in the way in which they do until that time happens. So, and then it happened really, really quickly. And I think from my point of view in the marketplace, what we saw or what we experienced was, I guess, abject panic, right? For 2 weeks, certainly the recruitment industry, we're a very, very fast moving industry. I've worked in it all my life. I've been a recruiter. I've run recruitment agencies now on the supplier side, and I love the industry through and through. I'm very passionate about it, and it amazes me how quick we are to respond. But those first couple of weeks, things moved so quickly. People made changes almost instantaneously. It was incredible. And then what we saw probably the next couple of weeks was a little bit of a calming of that. Not straight away, but I think certainly over the last couple of weeks, we've seen people sort of settle into this new sort of rhythm of work and, this new way of operating. People are becoming a little bit more accustomed to it. But yes, certainly at the outset, things just changed dramatically. And it was, but you had to work hard to keep up, right? With all of the customer conversations, the new prospect conversations, but also the internal conversations. The sales team that I manage and the wider teams that I work with, they were facing as many challenges as obviously our clients and their customers were. So, how do you keep those people engaged? How do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them safe? Whilst you're trying to sort of do business as well. So yeah, it was spinning plates. It was tough.
Well, no, I can imagine. The one thing I would say though about your solution, it's a bit like a CRM, right? I feel like your website is something that is almost, it's core of your business. It's not there's no one who you get the odd like punchy one-man bands who don't have a website. And I spoke to one last week who's been going for like 4 years, hasn't had a website. He reckons, he's profitable. So if he's telling the truth, fair play. But majority, yeah, I do know another guy who operated out of a black book for the first year without a CRM. I think he had a website, but he didn't have a CRM. He literally just wrote in a black book. Like, it had to be black. Couldn't have been another colour. But I guess, what sort of conversations have people been approaching you guys with? Because are they really going to call up and try and turn their website off? Like, I can't imagine that's going to happen no matter what.
We've had various conversations. People have been asking for help, and I get that. Right, depending on the size of the business, depending on the market you operate in, everybody's going to look at their costs and try and manage those accordingly. And one of the surveys we ran during those first few weeks was how a significant percentage of the market was obviously looking to manage costs as best they can. But you're right. Why would you want to take down your shop window? Right, it would be absolutely crazy to do that. If you take that on a step further, when you're not in the office itself, and it's potentially maybe in those first few days, few weeks, it was harder for your customers, clients to get hold of you. You needed that resource to be there. You needed that to be that sort of the face of your business, to communicate what you were doing, how you were changing. And that's why we spent a lot of time with customers who asked for it, throwing up extra pages to help manage their COVID response. We were putting banners on websites for certain clients. So they were saying, look, this is what we're doing to actually help you guys through this process. This is how you can get hold of us. But for me, I think, the web platform probably became more powerful at that moment in time as a way to reach your audience than ever before. And I think what we'll also see as people sort of move out of this environment, and this isn't a sort of reflection of the job boards, obviously having coming from that world, but people would likely, and I think they should do, obviously I'm a bit biased, but I think they should really invest in their personal brand. Obviously, to your point, that's your world. They should really invest in the website so that maybe they don't have to invest as much with some of the job boards, right? We know there's going to be an influx of candidates on the market. Attraction's potentially going to be easier. So yeah, I can't see why anybody would almost want to completely shut shop unless they obviously have to and take the website down. It would be crazy to do that.
But I imagine, like you just said, there'd be a lot of people wanting to know if you guys would rally together and produce some new things for them. Like, we had to literally rip up campaign after campaign because it felt a little bit redundant, some of the things we were talking about, right? Which for me, I was just grateful that clients are still wanting to invest in marketing. So I was like, we're going to do it. We're over servicing everywhere we can. We've got to do what we need to do. And it was actually good fun, if anything. We rolled our sleeves up. We came up with some amazing events and webinars and podcasts and all these things that were digital. So I guess it was the same feeling for you guys. Just get stuck in.
I think we've done more marketing in the last month than we've probably done in the last 6 months. Yeah. We've done more webinars than we've probably ever done before. We've sort of built out more initiatives, more campaigns than we've ever done. And it's been almost a really healthy exercise to look at the business in such a granular way, to think, what could we do? What should we do? How differently. We had to change dramatically because we couldn't call and speak to people. So we actually made a significant shift to doing our business development, if you like, on video. We invested in technology ourselves that allowed us to send personalized videos to prospects, but also to existing clients, so they could watch it in their time or in their way. And so, from our point of view, actually, some of the things have proved to work very well, and we'll continue to do that as we move forwards. So I think the way in which we work will have changed as well, for the better and for the long term.
How did the team at Volcanic cope internally with the change?
Some better than others. Right, there's some big sales characters there, and some of them just love being out. Right, they're salespeople at heart, and some of them love getting out to see clients. They love getting out to meet other partners. They like the networking. They like the events, and that was all stripped away from them literally in a heartbeat. And I think to begin with, it was like, oh, this is okay. And then as it's gone on, you can start to see it, a little bit of friction creeping in, and the guys, desperate to sort of get back into the office environment, have that little bit of interaction, that little bit of banter. But we've worked really hard to build out a really strong rhythm of work. So, we've mapped out literally every week of every month what meetings we have at which point, just to make sure we've got a regular cadence of communication. We know what we're doing, when we're doing it. We're setting ourselves very mini goals along the way just to sort of make sure we're accountable. We've got our targets, obviously, that we would work to anyway. We've broken them down into the smallest amount just so that we can keep on track. So, it's almost like Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday, right? It's inch by inch, play by play, fighting our way back out of hell, really, at the moment, mate. That's what we're trying to do.
Have you seen the Last Dance documentary about Michael Jordan on Netflix?
I haven't actually. No,
I think
you want to watch. Apart from that,
mate, you need to watch it. There's 4 or 5 episodes, maybe 6 episodes been released today on Netflix. It's a story of the Chicago Bulls. Okay. So it's the Al Pacino piece, but on steroids in real life, and it's the story of Michael Jordan and how he took the Bulls from this kind of underperforming team to the best in the world. The whole world is America, right? Kind of what you just said there, it's like watching that, I'm like, that's the kind of attitude I've tried to have. And I think in this whole pandemic has been, we can't have a day off. We can't have a poor performance. We have to be the best we've ever been. Like in a normal market, you can get away with some mediocre stuff, but you just can't get away with it right now because every penny someone's spending, every day they're investing, it's counting for more than ever before.
Yeah, everybody's got to chip in and do their bit, right? So, if we've asked people to get involved in deals that they might not have usually been involved with based on size, doesn't matter. No. We've come together as a team and said, look, this is the team number, this is the team objective. Collectively, we have to do our bit. So rather than you focus on your number, if you can help a deal, if you can help, a demo, let's just put our company hat on and let's just make it work. That's how we.
Steve, my listeners typically are the small startups or the people that haven't even started yet. I've got lots of others as well, but the point of this show was always about educating the early stage businesses and the guys that were about to start. If I was going to be, like the guy I introduced you to this week, if I'm the early stage business, what are the typical questions you get asked by those smaller brands in the early stages of the sales process?
Bizarrely, they usually sort of try and pick our brains on what tech they should buy. We hold a relatively sort of agnostic position in the marketplace. We get a lot of people sort of asking, what they should do, how they should ultimately go about it. Obviously, the world in which we sit in terms of the website industry is, we get, well, how can I look professional? How can I compete? And I think that's a big part that we play with some of those smaller and mid-sized agencies. We know it's, certainly was a very crowded marketplace, depending on who you ask, 30, 40,000 recruitment agencies. I think 70% of those are, 1 to 10 man users in terms of agencies. So how can we compete against the bigger agencies? How can we have a differentiator? How can we sort of stand out and actually attract candidates? A big part of what we do, people say, I want a good looking website. Well, good looking is totally subjective, right? What you might like, I may not, and vice versa. So we try and put the design aspect very much to the back end of our conversations. And our focus is around on attracting candidates, converting candidates, and helping these companies to make more money. That's what we get up for in the mornings, to help them do that. So we get a lot of questions around, well, how can I attract consultants to the business? How can I attract, obviously, candidates, but also how can I attract clients, which is, sometimes a very forgotten part of the web presence, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. A quick interruption of the episode to bring to you a message from our second sponsor, which is Odro. Odro, as most of you probably know, is the world's most powerful all-in-one video interview platform for recruiters. Used by thousands of recruiters worldwide and with some of the industry's biggest names amongst its client base, Odro is a video interview platform. It was developed specifically to help agencies increase their revenues. It was developed specifically to help agencies increase their revenues. The most innovative solution on the market, Odro's software helps recruiters to engage more talent, reduce time to hire, and most importantly, it helps you win business. You'll even get the ROI back from investing in Odro within just 45 days. It's designed to benefit everyone in the process, so from recruiters to clients to candidates, Odro's platform is improving the hiring process one interview at a time. We chose to partner with Odro because we felt like both brands, Hoxo and Odro, were in such a clear alignment in the way that we approach everything we do and how passionate we are about helping this industry grow. If you want to find out more about how Odro can help your agency transform its process and win more business, win exclusivity and drive revenue, then click the link on the podcast notes and every social post that goes out, and you will get a call back by one of the Odro guys. They are awesome, and I'm sure they'll be able to offer some amazing value to your business. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the show. We're now in a position where next week we're hearing about the news, right? We're hearing that there's going to be hopefully a change in the restrictions. And how do you think? Well, I mean, this might be just your personal opinion, or potentially based on the data you've got over at Volcanic. But how do you think the market's going to respond in the next 4 to 8 weeks?
It's difficult, right? So we have an office over in Australia. We've got an office over in Kuala Lumpur, and they are starting to let people back into the office, certainly in KL, which is great, right? A few sort of green shoots, bit of optimism in that sense. So we have a few people back in the office this week in KL. We think that they'll all be allowed to go back into the office as of next week. Some of the shops are starting to open up out there. I think as and when we get the news here, it will be very much a phased response. I don't believe it'll all be everybody back in. I don't think everybody will want to go back in. If you look at things that we've already got in place right now around social distancing, it would be madness to have 20, 30 recruiters all sat in an office next to each other. So will we have to phase it that we only have 10 of our 20 recruiters in our office, far more spread out?
Yeah.
And equally, you and I discussed it earlier. I think, what this whole situation has done, it's forced us to work from home and find a way to be efficient. It's forced companies who historically may have been a little bit hesitant to let people work from home, let them work from home, and they've had no other option but to do that. And they would have come to trust them, right? If we're going to be bold, that's the reason working from home doesn't work. We don't trust people to get on and put a good shift in. But if people have been functional, then people will think, well, I don't really want to travel, an hour into London or wherever it may all be. I don't want to spend 1,500 quid, £2,000 a year on a train ticket. I like my work-life balance. That's really good. Maybe companies might think, well, actually, we have become more efficient. Do I need such a big office? Could I actually have a smaller office and still be as functional? So I think when we go back, I think it will be phased, but I think it will be a very, very different working environment. We've done some work at our end recently with an external organisation, and they're talking about how we've got used to selling remotely. Okay, companies have got used to buying with a sort of virtualized sales force, and they may not want to go back to engaging with us in the way in which we did before. Right, so it's all about us. It's about the client base, and if I'm selling to somebody over Zoom, and we can do that in 20 minutes, half an hour, when we do go back, whenever that is, are they really going to want me in their office for 2 hours? Right? Probably not.
Well, it depends if they want to be in their office as well, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. So, like I say, it's very much a two-way thing. We might want to all charge back into the office and get back to normal, but clients might think, well, I don't need your sales guys rocking up and taking an hour and a half of my time. Just jump on a Zoom call, show me what you've got to show me, and let's do it that way. We did it.
We forced it into our process about 18 months ago. It was about January 19, and I was sorry. I remember in the Q4 of 18, I was fucking everywhere. I was on the train all the time. Not so much it was just around London, but I felt like I was on the tube all the time, and I was building this team that I never saw, and I was going to meetings, and it was a bit pointless because I think, especially with Hoxo in the early few years, well, it's only a few years old, but in the first 2 years, majority of what I did was educate people. I felt like I went to meetings all day, and people weren't intending to buy; they just wanted to know what I was talking about, and so I fucking went on so many journeys that got me nowhere. I mean, they'll all pay off somehow, but as soon as I went January 19, right, we're going to put Zoom in. We're going to force it. If people absolutely fundamentally need me to go and see them, I'll go. But there has to be a mandate. And it's when Hisham worked with me. and I had Hisham opening the sales conversation. I was closing it, and he was brilliant because he was like, yeah. So he just sat there all day, and he was like, Sean only does video calls, and we kind of went from like 80% out on the road to like 20%, and it fucking hell. I mean, sales went up, productivity went up. I enjoyed it more. I got more time with the team. But again, I don't think I like 100% of anything. I don't like stuck on video. I like to go and see the odd person. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Moderation, right? It's you've got to have a balance there. But I do think that clients, their view of the world will change just as much as ours, and they will want to be efficient, and they will think, well, we could buy from these companies when the crisis was on and it was quite efficient. So what's wrong with carrying on like that? So I think it will change for both parties moving forward. So I really do. And
what do you think will happen to all these people that are on furlough? And like, if you've got used to working a certain way, let's say you kept 10 out of your 30 staff, you got used to working a certain way. The 10 people, you do trust them. Good point. You're not that bothered about your office as much as you were. What do you do with all these people that the government are going to kick back into the market? Do you think people will keep them, or do you think it'll be a mass exodus?
I think there'll be an element of that, right? In any business, there's always people who end up get carried a little bit. It's tough to say, but they just, I worked in recruitment for 10 years, and there was good billers and there was weaker billers. And I think people will use this as an opportunity to, trim their business accordingly. Which is tough to say, right? But it's just a reality of the situation. So I think we will see an element of that for sure. I think you'll also see the flip side of it, of some of those people who maybe felt their companies didn't manage the situation as well as they could. They will judge those employers based on how they were treated in the tough times as to how they react in the good times. And I think some people will choose to move on. But yeah, it's a good point. There will be a lot of people potentially on the open market in the not too distant future for sure.
Have Volcanic managed to keep hold of the team?
Every single one.
Yeah.
Every single one. And that's the same for our parent company as well. So the messaging at the outset was that, we would realign, we would adapt, and we would do everything humanly possible to save furloughing a single person or making any redundancies. And to date, that's absolutely been the case. Which has been amazing, really, when parent company holds 2,500 people.
Yeah, it is amazing. So really, if you guys have got used to this new world with everyone, the impact will be minimal when things go back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there will be some change. Like I said, we have found a new way of working. We've done a lot of stuff internally. But also it's given us an opportunity to really look at the business. So, we're doing a lot of internal training. We're doing a lot with our demo accounts, with our partner relationships, with our video content and bits and pieces like that. So yeah, in the quieter moments, we're doing a lot of housekeeping and sort of preparing for that returning market. So, the concept has been, what does excellent look like? And we've been trying to work towards that. So, what does the best demo account look like? What does the best sales collateral look like? What do the best marketing campaigns look like? And we may not, chip away and get all of those done, but that's the sort of mindset that we've got, that we want to have, that when we come out of it, we've used the time wisely and we're best placed to capitalize on it and maybe even sort of recover some of the lost ground. I think that's what we're really aiming towards.
How do you see the market recovering? How long do you think it'll take till we're back to a semi-normal business trading level?
The reality is we are seeing some green shoots, right, already. The conversations we've had in the last week, 10 days have been very, very different to the conversations even of 2-3 weeks ago. There seems to be a little bit more optimism out there in terms of some of the people we're speaking to. Obviously, it's market specific, it always is. But we're seeing people talking about actually, I'm starting to get a little bit more dialogue with clients, and I really want to be ready for that returning market. So I think we're a way out from that at the moment. If you look at the hard stats in terms of what really runs our industry, job postings, job applications, they're all over the place at the moment. But in terms of the conversations we're having, depending on market sector, some of those people are booming, right? They're doing really, really well. I spoke to a guy, he almost apologized for the fact he had so many jobs he didn't know what to do.
Was it healthcare or?
Yeah, it was healthcare. Yeah. He was healthcare and IT. People who've got, if you think about software developers, they can work anywhere in the world. We've got devs in Mexico and Spain, right? It doesn't matter. They don't need to be in an office. So people who are placing those types of individuals, it makes no odds to them. So we've seen some stuff there. Interestingly, with the slightly larger organizations, when they're really on their digital transformation journey, they are making sure they've got the best tech stack in place possible. They're probably working on the basis that some of the smaller companies are going to go by the wayside, and they can scoop up that market share. But to your market sector, the guys that we're typically speaking to, the small, medium ones, I think if they can be brave, if they have got the financial backing to weather this storm, if you like, if they can get everything in place, then they really have a chance to maybe compete in those first few months that the market does come back. If they can get off the mark quickly, that is a chance to really differentiate themselves. And the worst thing you could do is wait for the market to return and then start thinking about it, because you'll just lose so much time. I spoke to, there was an article recently about a recruiter recruiting in the US, and this CEO basically saying to them, I'm not going to hire anybody for 6 months. Not interested, like blanket statement. And she went back to him and said, okay, I get that. I understand where you're coming from. But, the reality is it's going to take me probably a month to 6 weeks to find anyone for you. They're going to be on a month minimum notice period. And if we don't start for 6 months, then it's going to be 9 months before your business hires their next person. And can you afford that? Right. And it's just an interesting way to look at it, right? And I appreciate we're not going to start randomly recruiting people straight away, but from a recruitment agency's point of view, it's like, if we're financially strong enough to do it, let's make sure we've got everything in the right place so we can capitalize on that returning market and get a fast start. And I think that's what we're trying to help some of the smaller agencies to do is, we've got a couple of partner initiatives that we're working on that we're really hoping that we can launch at the right time. We've got to be sympathetic to timing. But I think as we really start to see the market pick up, we've got some campaigns we're going to throw into the market with another supplier that we really think could help some of these smaller agencies make a big impact.
Interesting. So you've got a native integration. Is it with Bullhorn is the main integration you guys have? Yeah. And then you will work with other CRMs and etc.
Yeah, we're owned by Access, right? Who are a CRM provider. So we obviously have an integration with those guys, and we've also got the integration with Bullhorn and a couple of the smaller guys as well.
What is that the main reason you would say people should work with you guys? Is it because you've got it all figured out? You've got the tech for end to end. You know how to navigate around a recruitment business and what they need.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those things. We were chatting the other day, weren't we? And it's like, if you just want a website and you just think, I need to build it, get it done, get it finished, then we're not the right people to go with, right? The platform is exclusively designed for the recruitment industry, right? And everybody that we've got understands the recruitment industry and what it takes to, pick up jobs, pick up candidates, make placements. And the whole platform is governed towards achieving that. And so I think, that intimate knowledge of the industry combined with a platform that's really intuitive, right? I think that's a really, really key thing because, as you saw earlier in the week, the vast majority of the content management system is available to you guys. So you can just jump in, you can affect the changes, you can do whatever you need to do. You don't have to come back to us and say, can you make a change? And we'd say, yes, we can, but it's going to cost you X.
Yeah.
It's a true SaaS model. You pay for the platform. The fascinating thing from my point of view, still being relatively new to the business, is that, the small one-man band agency sits on the same platform as Reed and Manpower. So all of the security, all of the compliance, all of the architecture, it is as good as it can get in that sense. And you couple that with that intimate knowledge of the recruitment market, the fact the platform is designed exclusively for recruiting and the recruitment market.
Yeah, you've already thought a lot of the things through. You've already got the answers to the questions. The amount of times I get asked about, generic suppliers in all areas, and you think by the time they've figured out what recruiters do, like you could already be moving forward. You could already be ahead of the game, which is part of it. Steve, if someone does want to reach out, I'm sure you're open to a conversation, whether it is a sales or just an open chat about what's going on in the market.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, obviously, love to speak to anybody from a sales point of view. Of course, I would. But flip side, as I said, look, I was a recruiter for 10 years. I trained recruiters coming into the industry, God help them, for about another couple of years. I then went and ran a relatively large recruitment agency. And the only reason I mention that is I think it's given me, and I still to this very day, real empathy for what recruitment consultants have to do on a day-to-day basis. I know it's a tough job, right? But if you get it right and you do it well, you can make a massive difference to yourself financially, but to somebody else's life, right? You get them a great job. From the CEO point of view I held with the recruitment agency, I understand what it's like to look at tech, buy tech, but also try and actually implement it in a business and the challenges that go with it. So, all of my life has been spent in this industry after I realized I was never going to make it as a golf professional, which came pretty early on in my career. If anyone wants to just talk tech, talk recruitment, is looking at a bit of tech and wants a sort of, impartial view on what it is, honestly, I happily have a chat with anyone. They can email me, s.barnhurst@volcanic.co.uk.
Yeah.
They can get me on LinkedIn.
I'll tag you in all this as well.
Yeah, my mobile number's on there. They can just give me a buzz, mate. They can just call the mobile. I'll speak to anyone at any time about anything if it helps them out. I really will do.
Wicked. Well, look, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate you being on. We'll get you guys back in on the podcast in the future when this settles down and see how Volcanic have rose again. Because look, you guys just stand out. It's always positive I hear on the market. So you're doing something right. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you all listening every single day, tuning in. You know that I ask for one thing and one thing only, and that's that you share this episode with someone you know, whether it be a colleague, a boss, even a competitor, someone who will benefit from these stories, this information that is helping us all come through this together. I'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, you stay safe and I'll see you soon.